Hello, welcome to Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror. Well, Billy's finally with us here. Are you going to stay here for a while, Billy? Well, we'll see. We'll see what he does. You can stay. Well, we have to get started, so you can stay or not, Billy. It's okay. All right, so today we're going to look up. Let me check the camera. He just knocked it. Hold on. Okay, hello. He knocked the camera. So let's get this thing started. He's right there. There's his paw. Maybe he'll come up and join us. Maybe he'll knock the camera over. We'll see. Okay. He's on my lap. Oh, he's off. So we're going to get back on the Mego train with this episode after our Rubber Jiggler episode. We're back to Megos. And now Billy is leaving the room, so I don't know if we'll see him again or not. But anyway, we're back to Megos. So today, we're going to look at the new Mego Candyman. And because he's dressed in black, we're seeing all kinds of reflections in the bubble. That's the problem, you know, monsters often are dressed in black, and when they are, you get all these reflections. Okay, but anyway, here he is, the new Mego Candyman. And by necessity, I'll be saying Candyman. That's already 3 times. All through this, so if it's being recorded, so if you see someone come up out of nowhere and kill me, I guess you know what happened then. I don't know who will upload this. I guess the police will find it. But I'm not speaking directly into a mirror. There is a mirror over there within a couple feet of me. But this is a lens. That's not a mirror. Lens is not a mirror. I mean, I could say that the bubble, which is very reflective, is almost like a mirror. But I'm not properly looking into an actual mirror, directly into it. So I should be okay, I think. We'll see. Well, let's get back to this. So there's the figure. And this is supposed to be his appearance in Candyman 2, Farewell to the Flesh. The sequel to Candyman. Here's the back. Nice image of Tony Todd. You've got the Mego Monsters logo there. It's interesting that a lot of movie stills from the Candyman franchise show Tony Todd in this very thoughtful, dignified kind of pose. Like he's always very handsome and thoughtful. only in certain scenes does he have that kind of monster kind of look with the bees and the blood and all that. Most of the images of him are very contemplative and dignified and regal and very thoughtful. And I think the figure captures that look. I mean, that's a very, that's not a scary face. That's a thoughtful, contemplative face. And I've heard some criticism of this sculpt, but I like this sculpt. Is it Hot Toys quality? No, but I think it looks like Tony Todd. It looks like a Mego style Tony Todd. I don't know what else you want. I think it looks pretty good. Given that it is a Mego style, it's got those a little more softer, more toy-like features. I like that. One feature I don't like is the way his hook hand extends so much further than his intact human hand. Because instead of giving him a new forearm that would end in the hook, they gave the hook, let's see if we can get a better look at that hook. With a lot of reflection, but I think you can see it. Yeah. So they gave, so the base of the hook, the stub where the hook attaches to, the stump I should say, the stump where the hook attaches to, connects to his wrist joint. So see that joint there? Okay. So the hook hand has about 1 centimeter or so, or almost 1/2 inch it looks like, of arm attached that then hooks to where the wrist joint is. So it makes that arm longer. So I wish they had either made him a new forearm, where this was one piece, and so this whole forearm would be a new piece and ending in the stump, in the hook, or they had made the hook snap directly into the wrist joint, so that it would be the same length as his hand. Now, in real life, on the movies, I'm sure he's holding that fake hook. I'm sure he's got a fake stump with. In fact, I've seen a prop, I think from the 3rd Candyman movie, that's got like a little pipe and a little it's got like a little pipe and another pipe out this way. So I'm not sure how exactly he probably grips that somehow. Maybe like this. So he's holding that in his hand, and he's got the stump. Obviously, would be coming out from there, and so it's going to be longer than his hand in real life. If you were looking at Tony Todd on the set shooting the film, he would have that stump, a little longer than his other hand, and the hook would be coming out from there. So if you're trying to depict the makeup, then that's probably accurate. If you're trying to depict the character as if the character were real, then it's, it's kind of like in some very, very super detailed toys where a character wears makeup. Do you show things like the seam of the makeup, of the prosthetics, or if they're wearing a mask with eye holes, but they're not supposed to be wearing a mask? Like Michael Myers has a mask, but he's supposed to be wearing a mask. Other monster characters are not supposed to be wearing a mask. They're supposed to be their face. But if you can tell that they got eye holes, or like the Ultraman figure Mego put out on the show, the original show, Ultraman has eye holes. Do you make the eye holes or not? I can't think of a really good example now, but I think you know what I'm talking about, particularly in older characters. How about the Michael Keaton Batman? Michael Keaton wears a prosthetic chin, and in stills, if it's not touched up, you can see the seam. So if you're going to do like a super duper detailed Michael Keaton Batman, would you give him the seam or not? Depends what you're going for. Or sometimes monster suits have eye holes, and do you put the eye? I'm not talking like a mask. I'm saying like maybe down here somewhere. If they're wearing a big suit, do you give them the eye holes or not, or do you give them the zipper, so to speak? Well, that's going off on a tangent, but so I don't know what their thinking was there. But that's the only flaw that I really would point out, is that his hook hand is longer than his regular hand. And that's okay if you're trying to depict what it might have looked like on the set, because you can imagine his real hand in here gripping that prosthetic. But if you're trying to depict the character as if he really existed, then that's not a good idea. It would be better for the hook to join directly into his wrist joint. A minor issue that I've spent too much time talking about already. Way too much time. So he's got a bunch of bees there, and if you know anything about the Candyman mythos, you know why he's got bees. Lots of bees. And I'm not sure if this still is actually from the third movie, or the second movie or not. Looks like it is. And we'll talk about the wardrobe in a minute. Yeah, that collar does look like it's correct to that movie. Okay, so it's a good figure. This outfit has a kind of Barnabas Collins look to it. I mean, really, that would just open that up and put a suit underneath, like a business type suit, and that would be a great Barnabas Collins outfit. And it has a kind of a leatherette sort of a look. I don't know if that's, I can't touch it, but it does look like it would have like a leathery texture. I don't know if this has anything in common with, like the Mr. Hyde outfit. I don't think it does. I don't have Mr. Hyde handy, but I don't think so, because that didn't look like this. So I think I'm always curious to know where they got the costume, because Mego's always reusing stuff. So did they make this coat especially for this figure, or did it already exist, and where did it come from? I'm kind of curious about that. All right, so we'll talk more about that in a second. I wanted to compare it to something here. Here is the NECA Candyman. So the NECA Candyman, I believe, came out first quarter of 2020. It might have been very late 2019, but all of the reviews for it are from January to March of 2020. So it either came out in January or it could have been like November 2019. I don't know. But anyway, this is a very nice figure, obviously. NECA does a great job with likenesses and costume. So you can see he's got two heads. Now this is the NECA one. We just saw the Mego one. Now this is the NECA one. Two heads. One has bees coming out of his mouth. And you can see the way they did the hook. Oh, I can hardly see it. Let me take a look myself here. And there it is. So you can see the way they handled the hook hand. I hope you can, because I can't really. There it is. There it is. Now I see it. There's this hook. And you see how it's that's on the same level as the other hand. So where the hook attaches to the wrist is the same place as his intact hand. The hook doesn't stick down further. And you can see he's got these, what I would assume are more screen accurate pants. These, I was going to say checkered pants. I don't think that's quite the right word. It's kind of like a, what are those? So this Candyman has black pants. And it looks like he has a much more colorful costume underneath. We can't see it because it's covered with his coat. So here's the back. NECA always, I mean, they do great art. Like, here's the illustration. But yes, they do paintings and things, but they also tend to illustrate their packaging with photos of their toys. So they pose their toys as if they were scenes from a movie, and they photograph them that way. And that's a good way of getting around issues with licensing images of actors or whatever. If you use pictures of your toy, once you've got the approval of the likeness for the toy, then you can take pictures of that toy and illustrate your box with your photos of your toy. So I think that's a workaround for not having to have a hassle over the images they're using, if it's from a movie, if it's photos of actors, etc. Well, you can tell, looking at these figures, that yes, they're different categories of action figure. Obviously, the NECA is a lot more detailed and a lot more, you know, it's a more advanced figure for sure. The Mego is much simpler, more toy-like, and the NECA is more aimed at an adult collector. Although Mego, as it says at the top there, or is it, yeah, 17 plus, so they're aimed at adult collectors as well. But the Mego style is more toy-like. Now, well, let's before we talk more about this, let's look at a piece that was submitted for this program. My friend Matt J. Cox, who's a fantastic person and a fantastic collector, very well known in the collecting community. He has a great collection. He's very into custom figures, and he's a great customizer. He creates wonderful figures that no one else has ever made, or better versions of characters than anyone else has ever made. He's got several Frankenstein figures that are better than any mass-produced Frankenstein. He's done a lot of great character, you name it. All kinds of Universal monsters, Hammer monsters. He's a big fan of the Shadow. He loves the Shadow. I like the Shadow too. He's got a great 1970s Shadow toy collection. But you know, I could go on and on about his collection. The point is, he submitted this Distinctive Dummies action figure to be used in this episode for comparison purposes. And I have a fair amount of Distinctive Dummies figures myself, but I don't have Candyman. Matt did. And this is the backing card for Distinctive Dummies. Now, it originally had a clamshell. There was an issue with the clamshell, so it couldn't make it to the show today, but originally this had a clamshell. You know, much like NECA, same kind of package, you know, similar. This was a limited edition of This is number 5 of 50. So Distinctive Dummies makes custom figures in very small quantities, usually like 50 figures is the normal edition size. And they always sell out in a matter of hours. They announce the new, usually 2 figures at a time. One day a month, they'll announce 2 figures, and they sell out in a few hours because they only make 50 of them. And I have quite a few of their Hammer action figures based on Hammer films, and some of their Paul Naschy figures, and a little this, little that. Someday I'll do a show about Distinctive Dummies. There's a lot there to talk about. So the Distinctive Dummies figure came out in 2014. So NECA, we're going to say first quarter of 2020. Mego was this year. It just recently came out. And Distinctive Dummies, 2014. The Distinctive Dummies figure is a custom figure, so essentially like a homemade figure. So it's not a licensed factory-made figure, but it's very high quality. So let's look at that. And this version of Candyman is supposed to be from the first film, the original Candyman. And you see he's got his hook jointed right at his wrist, as I wish Mego would have done, as NECA did do, and obviously Distinctive Dummies did it. I don't know if it's yeah, I don't know if yeah, there's a joint there. So he still has his regular forearm, and it's jointed at the elbow. It's just at the wrist, this hook is attached. He's got black pants. Let's see what, since we can actually touch this one, do I want to do that? Do I dare to open his? I don't want to open it. I don't want to do it. But you can see he's got a black outfit in there. Now, what's screen accurate? I'm not sure what Candyman, what kind of a suit Candyman wears under his coat, because the only images, I mean, I've seen the movie Candyman, but I don't remember exactly what kind of suit he had on. But in the images you see online, the only time he opens his coat is when he's showing all the bees, and then you can't really see anything but the bees and the rib cage and all that. So you don't usually see him walking around without his jacket. But so this, in this case, now often Distinctive Dummies, their likenesses are, at least, you know, their early years of Distinctive Dummies were a little shaky, but once they got the bugs out, their likenesses tended to be much better than any mass-produced product. They really nailed it with some of their likenesses. They were, you know, collector quality likenesses. In this case, given that there had never been a Mego-style Candyman before this was made, this was the first one, which is why I'm showing it. Even though it's a custom figure, it's still kind of historic in that this was the first publicly sold Candyman figure. There had been a McFarlane movie Maniacs Candyman figure that was all PVC. It was not Mego-style. It was, you know, all plastic, no fabric clothes. And I thought I had it. Maybe I had it years ago and sold it. I don't know, but I don't have it now. I don't think there's another Candyman toy. I think that McFarlane one was the first. I wish I had that to show you as well. But anyway, this likeness is not as good as either the Mego or the NECA. It's not as good. But just keep in mind that this was the first, so there was nothing to compare it to. His trim is more orange, almost pumpkin colored. on this one. Now you might notice that these two are in similar costumes, obviously. But what's going on here? Completely different, right? Why is the Mego one dressed in this almost Blade Runner like a black leather overcoat, this Inverness coat, and the other ones have this much more bulky fur trimmed coat with a brown or kind of an orange brown? Well, because both Distinctive Dummies and this NECA, despite what it says here, this NECA is actually based on Candyman's look in the first Candyman movie. Yes, it says Candyman 2, but he did not look like this in Candyman 2. This was his costume in the first Candyman. You can see his B rib cage there. A lot of detail. Great figure, but it's a Candyman 1 action figure licensed as a Candyman 2 action figure. The Mego one is wearing Candyman's costume from the second film, Candyman 2. He does have a black outfit like that in the second film. Now, I don't know if it's exactly like that, but, you know, more or less. This is a reasonable representation of what he looks like in Candyman 2 in the sequel. And I think Candyman 3, I think he still has that black outfit. And of course, Distinctive Dummies, that's the first Candyman in that outfit. So, who's got the best artwork? Now, I like Distinctive Dummies figures a lot. I'm often critical of their card art. I think their card art is often the weakest link. It depends. The Hammer line, Distinctive Dummies Hammer line, has their best card art because they take it from the movie posters. But when they do original card art, it's almost never up to par with the action figure. So, much like Mego, their weakest link is also their card art. But in this case, though, in this case, the Distinctive Dummies card is pretty darn good. I'm not sure about the bottom image, but that top image, that's pretty good. You might argue that maybe it should be kind of a golden color for the honey and the bees. Okay, yeah, I can kind of see that, but it's, just imagine that with the clamshell over it, with the plastic over it. That's pretty good. And also how it's got the dark area around him. See that? It's like that works. So it mimics the shape of his bright colored collar, so it stands out. See, I'm talking about the dark area on the card. It's perfectly designed to interact with that costume to outline it. Pretty good card. I think one of Distinctive Dummies' better cards, better non-Hammer cards. And here's the back. These are other custom figures they offered in the series in 2014. And I don't have any of those. Really, I just buy the Hammer Distinctive Dummies figures and occasionally something else that catches my fancy, like if it's a Paul Naschy character, I'll buy that. I bought a couple of maybe some Vincent Price characters like Theater of Blood and some things, and Count Yorga, 12-inch Count Yorga, a few other things. There was a big Salem's Lot Mr. Barlow, and I bought him, a 12-inch one. One of these days we'll do a show about Distinctive Dummies, but there's a lot to say there. Anyway, so compare that to this card, it's not bad. It's bees. It's Candyman. It's bees. So I mean, what else are you going to put with Candyman if you're not going to show Candyman? What else are you going to show? Bees. If you're not going to do like an original image of him, if you're going to do a generic kind of a stock photo, which they almost always, if they don't get art from the licensor, then they'll just use stock photos. And this, I'm sure that's what this is, the stock photography of bees. Now, if they had put that on the front, that just, nah, that wouldn't work. That's too, he just looks like Tony Todd, doesn't look like Candyman. He doesn't have a hook up or anything like that, so that wouldn't have worked on the front. This is an original painting. You know, it's good. Is it the best painting I can imagine of Candyman? No. Is it the most atmospheric Candyman image? No. Does it really capture the spirit of the character? No. But it's a good painting. This thing is a good professional painting. It's dynamic. I wish I could put them all next to each other. I think one of them is going to fall if I do that. Can I do that without destroying them? Okay, let's see if I can do it. I think so. Yeah, that's good enough. That works. You can see them all. Are they in focus? There's the not linear evolution. They're not in the right order for that, but you can see the different, how about the different varieties of Candyman action figures over the last few years. Different interpretations of the character in the 8-inch format. But as I was saying, the only one that's really the Farewell to the Flesh costume is the Mego one. So the first Candyman movie was released in 1992, obviously starring Tony Todd and Virginia Madsen. The sequel, Candyman 2 Farewell to the Flesh, was released in 1995. And the third film, Candyman Day of the Dead, was released in 1999. And last year there was supposed to be a new Candyman produced by Jordan Peele of Get Out fame. And because of COVID, it was pushed to this year, 2021. So this August, it's supposed to come out. A new Candyman. It's just called Candyman. Just like the reboot Halloween was called Halloween, even though it's a sequel to the 78 Halloween. Okay, whatever. So this new Candyman is simply called Candyman, to be released in August 2021. And it's got a lot of buzz because Jordan Peele's producing it. Tony Todd is supposed to reprise the role of Candyman, but I think Peele, who's co-writing and producing, is not directing, but I think he's going to throw us a curve. And I think people who are going to be disappointed if they expect to see Tony Todd in full Candyman costume, the hook, and doing his thing. And I think there's going to be a little twist. I don't think it's going to be what people are expecting. It's not, I could be proven wrong, but it's not going to be simply another Candyman film, another installment of the franchise with Tony Todd playing the same character the same way, doing the same thing. I think there's going to be a little something different, and we'll see if I'm right, what people think of that. But yeah, I think it's going to subvert expectations to some degree. But Tony Todd at least is in it. He's in it, and he's in some way, shape, or form playing Candyman. So that's good. Because he really is synonymous with the role. Not that no one else can ever play it, but he's still able to play it. It's good to have him in the film, even if it ends up just being like a little cameo or flashback, and it's not full-blown character throughout the film. Maybe it will be, I don't know. But it's good that he's in it. Let's see. So the first Candyman, it was a surprisingly, for a film that was sort of, it wasn't from the 80s, but it was still part of that, the tail end of that 80s slasher wave. It started, I guess, with Halloween in 78, and it went into the 90s, and Candyman was one of the last of those, but it was a lot more upscale, a lot classier than most of those films. And this was after Silence of the Lambs, so that kind of redefined. I wouldn't call Silence a slasher film, but it was sort of, a deluxe version of something compatible with that genre. And Candyman was also kind of an upscale deluxe, a high rent version of an 80s supernatural slasher film. It was based on a short story by Clive Barker called The Forbidden, published in 1985. The first Candyman movie. And as far as I know, the subsequent Candyman films had less and less to do with Clive Barker's story. And I don't know if this new film has anything to do with Clive Barker's story. We'll see. But Clive Barker wasn't directly involved with any of the films, I don't think. I don't think he had a hand like producing or anything, any of the films. What else can I say about Candyman? I really like the original score for the first Candyman by Philip Glass. He did the sequel score too, but the first score was by Philip Glass. That was really something. That's when I first saw it, and I didn't know who did the music. When I saw his name come out, I said, "Whoa, they got Philip Glass to do this." That kind of sent a message right there that you were dealing with something a little higher end, something more with more serious ambitions. It wasn't just a popcorn movie, because he usually does like art house type documentaries or artistic films. He doesn't do usually, just entertainment, popcorn munching, fun trash. So seeing that he was involved kind of sent a signal that this is a little higher level, and it was. Everything about it was a higher level than your usual horror movie of that time. Now we're in a kind of a renaissance of very serious horror movies, to the point where I think the pendulum has swung too far in the other direction. Now I think horror movies, they're too serious. They're not any fun. I'm kind of disengaged with a lot of horror. It's just today, I'm not a fan of Ari Aster. That's not what we're here for to talk about that. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this really grueling, sad, tragic, cruel, mean-spirited kind of horror. Blech. It was kind of original, I guess, when the French were doing it 10, 20 years ago. But now Hollywood's doing it. I don't. It would be nice if horror could be fun again, without being stupid, without being goofy, without being lowbrow. I don't get a lot of flack for this, but I really like The Babadook. That's one of my favorite horror movies of the 21st century. Let the Right One In is another one of my favorites. I really liked It Follows. I like that movie a lot. I'm sure all three of those movies have their haters. Maybe not Let the Right One In. Who doesn't like that movie? But Babadook, It Follows, a lot of people don't like those movies. But I like them. And there's two examples of modern horror movies that that are monster movies. There are monsters in them. It's not just people suffering and being sad, but there's also grief and people wrestling with allegorical representations of real life problems. But they're still fun. There's a lot of sadness in them, but they're still fun. You don't feel bad watching them. Whereas some of these movies of the last 5-10 years, you feel bad. You feel bad for having watched it. You just like, why did I watch that? Well, what's the point except just to wallow in misery? I call it misery porn. Misery porn. There's just, wow, isn't it fun to see people suffer? No. Not really. But the trend in horror seems to be more familial, not familiar, familial, family-oriented grief, like losing a child, losing a parent, losing a loved one, being responsible for that loss, hurting someone you love, or being unable to help them. That seems to be the big thing with horror, is this grief over losing a family member or a close loved one and having some kind of sense of responsibility for it. Really for the last, 20 years or so, that's kind of been the growing trend. Okay, but I feel like we run that into the ground now. Okay, well, thank you. We're all quite depressed now. Can we have some monsters, please? Can we have some fun again? But the first Candyman, that's a monster movie. Candyman's a monster. And it's serious. And it's got a lot of interesting social themes, and you can read different things into it and interpret it different ways. And some people have criticized it. Some people, particularly today, in hindsight, some of the racial allegory, depending on how you read it, it doesn't play well today. But it's just one way of looking at it. I've read various think pieces on it, but that's a sign of a good movie. It means different things to different generations, and you can keep looking at it in different ways and analyzing it different ways and taking different things from it. So it's a good movie and a good character. And we have 3 good representations of the character. Now, why did NECA make a Candyman figure and call it Candyman 2? Because that's the first movie Candyman. That's not the second movie Candyman. I think because, well, obviously they wanted to make the original. That's the iconic look for Candyman from the original film. But they couldn't get the license for the original film. And the license for the second film was available. And I've seen this happen with other things where toy maker or some other kind of merchandise manufacturer can't get the license to the most iconic appearance of a certain character, but a sequel is available, so they get that instead. And sometimes they make sure that it looks like the character looked in the sequel, and other times they fudge a little and they really make it from the first film, which is what they wanted to do in the first place. You can see this particularly with Michael Myers merchandise. Everyone wants to do Michael Myers from the first film from '78, but for years and years and years, it was very hard to get a license to do the 1978 Halloween. For whatever reasons that are over my head, too complicated for me to explain. And I don't know all the ins and outs, but you either couldn't get the '78 Halloween license, or if you did, there were some issues with the rights holders where you couldn't make a really screen accurate Michael Myers, even if you wanted to, that there was some issue, kind of like we see with Universal and the Universal monsters these days. Apparently you can't make a screen accurate Wolfman anymore, Lon Chaney Jr. You know, we'll see what NECA does with that, but apparently that's a problem now. So, you know, license holders, licensors, the companies that own the licenses, they can be weird, and, you know, frankly, they can be SOBs. I'm not going to sympathize with them. Forget them. But they can be difficult. They can be difficult, and, you know, throw all kinds of obstacles in the path of people who, heaven forbid, actually want to make products based on their characters. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't want to start ranting about Universal and stuff like that, but you know my feelings about them. Well, so Michael Myers was a problem for a long time, and we had lots of mediocre Michael Myers merchandise, and finally something changed, and now at last you can start to get some real 1978 screen accurate Halloween Michael Myers figures. But one thing people were doing, particularly like Trick or Treat Studios with their masks, and I think other people, but they're a good example, they figured out, hey, wait a minute, we can license Halloween 2 because it's the same mask, it's the same William Shatner mask, and we can make a good Michael Myers figure because it's a different, I think it was Universal that owned Halloween 2. In this case, that was a good thing that Universal owned it. Usually that's not such a good thing, but in this case it was a good thing that Universal had the rights to Halloween 2 because they would play ball, whereas the people who owned Halloween 1 were a problem. So Trick or Treat was able to make a good Michael Myers mask, the first really good licensed, mass-produced Michael Myers mask, because they licensed Halloween 2 from Universal. And Universal, in Halloween 2, had some images in that film which looked like the Michael Myers mask from the first film. So they were able to do some variations and things. So they got around the issues with licensing that first film by going for Halloween 2. So now I've really gone off on a tangent, but I think that's kind of what's going on here, is that NECA really wanted to do the first Candyman, and you can see they don't say Candyman 2. They put Farewell to the Flesh in very small letters there. Whereas, let's see, did they do it? No, they don't. So in some posters, the movie has a 2 on the title, and sometimes it doesn't. I think it was released in theaters without the 2. But the point is that Farewell to the Flesh is like me, a little type. Obviously they want, I mean, when you just look at it, it just says Candyman. And then you look closer with a magnifying glass, oh, Farewell to the Flesh. So they really wanted to do a Candyman 1 figure. Whatever reason, the license wasn't available, or there were too many issues, or someone else had it. So they did Candyman 2 and made him look like the first Candyman. So bravo to NECA for getting around that. Oh boy. Mego just went for the Candyman 2 look. That's it. That's Candyman 2. That's Farewell to the Flesh. That's his look in the second film. Which is fine, because now we got a Candyman 1 and a Candyman 2, and we got a custom Candyman 1. And I don't know that we really need a Candyman 3. We'll see about this new film, the Jordan Peele produced one. He's not directing, he's producing. We'll see if that's the kind of film where you would make a toy of it or not. Don't know. My hunch is that it's not going to be toy friendly, but maybe it will be. Maybe there'll be full tilt Tony Todd Candyman in all his glory with the outfit and the hook and all that, and killing people, and, the whole 9 yards, and it'll be, yes, you'll be able to make a toy of that. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, so we've gone a lot of weird, different angles there. They have nothing to do with Candyman. I guess that's it. What else can we say? I think that's it. So if you saw my last episode, I had a mishap with my car. Very concerned about that. What's going to happen with the insurance? Are they going to total the car? If they do, that's going to be a problem. But physically, I'm okay. My leg is still a little sore, but it's okay. So I'm coming along nicely after that experience physically. I don't know how many more Mego episodes we're going to have, but not a lot. We're not going to have many more episodes left in this season. We'll have 1 or 2 more Mego episodes, and we'll have another couple of regular episodes. And then I think we'll have the final season finale, which will be a very small episode. It won't be a big documentary thing with me going out somewhere or whatever. No. It's going to be a very intimate, kind of lower scale show. It'll all be right here at this table. No remote footage or anything. It's just going to be here showing you some different kind of things. Talking about some different things. And that will be it for this season until Halloween. I'm sure we'll have some special episodes or some reviews or something over the summer, but that'll be it as far as regular episodes are concerned. So that's coming. In the meantime, please subscribe if you have not subscribed already. Especially when we go to an irregular schedule, you don't want to miss the special episodes that I might do in the months to come before the season starts back up. You want to know when those are available, so you have to subscribe. And I'm sure I'll be doing some music stuff and whatnot. I'm working on another documentary, so I did In Love with Toys, which that was in 1995, but I restored In Love with Toys this past year, which is up for a Rondo. So please vote in the Rondos. Vote in the documentary category for In Love with Toys. There'll be a link in the description. Also join the Facebook group for Basement of Horror, because when we're off season, that'll be the way to connect with me and other Basement of Horror followers. Would it be too egotistical to give a pet name to viewers of this show? We could call ourselves Basement Dwellers. How about that? Basement Dwellers. It seems a little too much to start coming up with pet names for people who watch the program, but it just occurred to me, if you want a name, that seems like a good one, Basement Dwellers. But the Facebook group will still be going, of course, all year round. So you want to join that. I'll put a link in the description. So subscribe, join the Facebook group, vote for In Love with Toys. And I was going to say that, okay, so I did that documentary In Love with Toys long ago. I'm working on a new documentary, nothing to do with toy collecting. I was trying to get it done last year, but COVID just made it impossible. And it's still difficult, so that's still an issue. getting access to everything I need. But hopefully that'll be done in the months to come, like over the summer. I hope things will loosen up. I'll be able to get into the places I need to get into and see the people I need to see and get it finished. And so that's some of the stuff I'm working on. All right, let's see. It's getting to be an hour. Better wrap this up. Thanks for watching. Remember, the one who dies with the most toys is dead.